In today's video, I'm going to try and help you get as quick as you can for round one in the Nations Championship at Road Atlanta in the Lamborghini. Now, this is an extremely tricky combination where getting that qualifying lap is going to be essential, and we've run in 18 minutes of qualifying for this race. It's going to be really important that you get your time trial nailed down. Now, the race is 15 laps long. It's on sports medium tyres, and there's ×1 for the fuel and tyre, which means it is going to be a simple sprint race. There is no strategy involved with this race. It's just a flat out race from start to finish. So getting that qualifying lap in is really going to be where you find your great position in this race. So let's have a little look at this lap and try and help you out. So going into the final corner to start your lap, just be cautious on the throttle free. You can see just lifting a little bit so we don't run wide there, and try and get yourself a good exit going into the first braking zone. Now, you can see the little shadow on the wall there. I was using that as my reference where we're going to get on the brake, and you can see pretty much dead level is where I'm using for braking into turn one. Now, be very, very cautious through here. See, going down to fourth gear, but I'm not going to go down to third gear yet. I'm actually going to brake, get that trail braking going on, and we want to take a line that we can then go down to third gear and then use third gear to accelerate out. So as your car just leaves the apex of the curb there, you can see just coming off the curb, we're back onto the throttle. It's really important to get on that throttle nice and early. It'll help rotate the car a little bit as well in third gear, and then get the car over to the right and then bring it back over to the left. Now, this first dotted line is really important because I use that as my braking reference, just braking just before it, and then you're going to get a little bit more aggressive on the brakes before you get to the last dotted line before the corner. As you see that, you can see the braking is going to go up to 100% nearly, and then we're going to start rotating into this right hand corner. Now, again, use as much of this curb as you can. You can see right up onto the curb, and then as soon as you're off that curb, you're back onto that throttle to try and carry some speed through this corner. Now, again, you can see a little dab of brakes going in here. What that's doing is putting the weight on the fronts to enable you to carry the speed through this left-hand corner. You can see I'm pretty much coasting, a little bit of throttle, then backing off the throttle because we want to keep this car over to the left. And then again, the start of the curb there, we can use that again as a little reference for where we're just going to dab the brakes. And again, this is just to put the weight on the front of the car, which as we go into fourth gear will enable you to accelerate through this corner without running wide. You can see there, the ghost in front is going to go all the way up on the grass. Now, I don't like doing that. I tried it. I found it gave dirty tyres and I just couldn't cope with it. And again, braking on that last blue board on the right hand side, pretty much using that as our reference into this tricky little section. Now, this is all about getting the right hand tyre up onto the curb and then downshift to third gear just as you come off the curb here. Now you can see we're into third gear, and you want to widen this line as much as possible. So use that curb, left hand tyre up onto the curb, and then onto the throttle. You want to get this corner so that you can really use that left hand tyre up onto the curb and then get on the throttle on the exit. You can see that we're on the throttle, and now you can go over the yellow line if it's late on in the corner. You can see here we're over the yellow line, but because it's quite far on in the corner, we won't get a penalty. If you go over the yellow line early, that's where you're going to get your penalty on that exit, so be careful there. Now, going into the next braking reference, we're using where the wall on the left there changes into a wider point. We're using that as our reference, braking just before that. And now we're going to start rotating into this right hand corner. You can see we want to get the car rotating into the apex. So as you're going through, your trail braking into the corner, and then as soon as your right hand tyre is up onto that curb, you can start putting a bit of throttle in and letting the car go out to the full width of the track. Now, as soon as you are on the full width of the track, though, you can see as soon as our car basically touches the curb, we're back onto the brakes for this tight right hand corner. And now we're going to go down to second gear and let it rotate, but then back onto third gear before we get out of the exit. So it's all about carrying the momentum through that corner. Didn't quite get that perfect, could have done it better, but you can see staying in third gear on the exit really does help the momentum on this straight as you go all the way down this long power zone. Now, rev the Lamborghini out on this straight. There's no short shifting needed, and then into the next braking zone. This is a tricky one to get right. Now, I was using the dotted line that goes across the track here. You can see just over that first dotted line, and then braking pretty much level with the Marshall stand on the right hand side. So the warning sign for your braking was the dotted line, and then you're looking out for that Marshall post onto the brakes, pretty much dead level with that. Now, just be careful not to brake late for this corner because it's essential that you get the braking done early so that you can rotate it in. So second gear for a bit of rotation into the first part of this corner, and you want to get that left hand tyre right over the grass. So you can see there, up onto the grass. And now the advantage of this is it gives you the ability to attack that yellow circle and it enables you to get into third gear to do that. So you can see up into third gear, and then we can go aggressive on the throttle. We don't need to lift because we've widened the line into that corner. It's essential you do that for your lap time. Now into this final corner, it's the tricky one. This, you can see, get onto the brakes just before the end of the curve. Now try not to run the car wide. I do run a little bit wide here, but not as wide as the Ghost. Keep an eye on the Ghost in front of me as I'm playing with the throttle. He goes flat out just to get the best lap time as possible. We just about keep our right hand tyre on the curb as we go over the line. So I think that lap would count even when they change the rules for the track limits. So you can see again here, let's watch that lap from chase camera, and you'll be able to see just how my right hand tyre stays on the curb on the finishing line also. But yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. In the race, you're going to have to be a bit more cautious on that exit, but in qualifying, you're going to have to really send it and try and just use that curb on the exit. Just try not to go onto the grass, obviously, because I think PD are going to change that, so you can't do that. And you can see from this view, the one big thing about this car is just being very patient with the throttle, letting it coast when it needs to coast. Dabber brakes to put the weight on the front of the tyres is really good with this car also. I found it really helpful in terms of getting that rotation through the corner. So just a little dab through some of them higher speed corners, and then making sure you're on the brakes so early for this car. You can see nice and early on the brakes, let that trail brake take its place, skim the apex, use the curb on the exit. And now here, I turned in a fraction too early. You can see I was right up onto the curb, and we're talking just milliseconds too early. But yeah, every little helps. You can see we still got a reasonable exit, but maybe lost half a tenth to a tenth there on the exit there. And then obviously you're going to carry that little loss all the way up to the next braking zone. But again, keep your eye on that white dotted line. This is what I was using as my initial sign that we're coming up to braking reference. Then you've got the marshal's post on the right, which is a perfect dead on spot where you need to get on the brakes. And this section is all about making sure you can stay on the throttle on the exit, and then just be very, very cautious as you come through this section. Now keep your eye on my right hand tyres, and I think we just about keep it on the curb as we go over the line. You can see it just is still on that curb, and that's what you got to try and do to maximize your qualifying lap. It is going to probably be a case of going for a lap, pitting, going for a lap, because you need to send it on that last corner, but you don't want to go onto the grass, because as far as I know, they're going to invalidate your lap if you actually go onto the grass in the actual race. So just be careful of that. But yeah, hopefully that'll help you out. Hit the like button if it did, subscribe if it did. I'll be back for more guides in the future. Thanks again for watching, everyone.